What's up my loves? My name is Paige, this is Pages with Paige, and today we're going to be talking through my top 10 books of 2022. This is another video in my wrapping up of 2022, and I wanted to talk through the top 10 books that I read in 2022. I had a really lovely reading year, and these were absolute standouts for me. 4 of these were actually from my Advent Bookish Peeps Pick My TBR, so I'm very thankful to Amy and Abby, Crystal, Erin and Aoife, and I'll leave all their channels linked down below for recommending me these books and then becoming favorites. There is no real order to them. I sort of have like a little bit of a mental order, but not really, except for my top book. Let's dive in. Hello, so it's not a completely different day at all, but I forgot to talk about one of my most favorite books of this year. I did say to myself before starting to film, don't forget to talk about your ebook first or you will forget about it. Whoopsies. So that is A Psalm for the Wild, built by Becky Chambers. I read this duology and absolutely loved it. Moscap and Dex are 2 of my favorite characters. They are just so wonderful, and Becky Chambers' writing really just hits in a different way than a lot of other writers for me, and I just adore what they put out. And so this is talking about life's purpose, and this tea monk, which I love, is traveling around to different towns trying to find their purpose in life and stumble across a robot. Robots have left humans to their own devices many years ago, and they've come back to see, how can we help? What do you need? And to answer those simple questions, just deep dive into an exploration of what it is to be human and what it is to want in life. And it was just, it's so beautiful, and so I absolutely adored it. So yeah, moving on. My apologies. The first one that I want to talk about is The Gracier by Kim Liggett. This absolutely caught me by surprise, and I had so much fun just engaging with these characters. It's a really heartfelt and a really strong story on female empowerment and feeling like you don't have a voice or you have too much power but you're penalized for that. And the elements of it that I absolutely loved was them being able to explore who they are and their identity wholeheartedly, and the consequences that come from the society that they live in. This is the first in a few books that deal with this theme that I've just found that I absolutely adored this year. And this was recommended by Crystal from Bomb Book Reviews. Then on a similar vein, there's Body of Stars by Laura Maylene Walter, and this was recommended by Erin from Sheba and Shelves. And the way that this is that female markings and freckles can be analysed and determine the future. So the sense of autonomy of these women is negated as they go through mandatory checking as they get older, and there is a point where they are the most alluring and very powerful in themselves, and shit goes down. Again, it was a really hard, impactful but beautiful read, and really just deals with female empowerment so well. And to conclude that trend of sort of gaining your voice and being trod on by the patriarchy is Asking for It by Louise O'Neill. And this was recommended by Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots. This is following a girl who has been sexually assaulted and victim blaming and dealing with technology and smartphones and the absolute impact that this can have on someone's life. And the ending still gets, I remember being so mad, and I still feel vivid emotions of anger to the ending, but it was done perfectly, and I don't think that if it had been changed it would be the story that it is. So as frustrating and as infuriated as I get it, and I love that about it. I love that it's made me think. I love that it resonates hard with being able to have consent and a sense of self, and how shit men and boys in this situation can be when they're making a mockery of this woman and the events that had unfolded. Very powerful. Definitely trigger warnings for all of these, but it was just so impactful. I loved it. Next up, we have The One by John Mars, and I find that I'm putting a thriller in my top 10s just because it is so novel to me. This was absolutely amazing in the short snippet of chapters. Like, it'd be a page, 2, 3, 4, and then we're into the next person, but it always ends on a cliffhanger, and then we're in the next person, but that's ended on a cliffhanger, and then we roll back to the first person, and that's still on a cliffhanger. It's just masterfully crafted, and and I loved seeing the exploration of DNA and being able to match based on your DNA and having your one true match. It's just such an interesting premise, and John Mars execute the consequences of this excellently. So it was a ride. It was super fast, super engaging, and I just had a ball with it. Next up, we have Wisemans Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. This was beautiful. It was definitely one of those sequels that I went, holy shit, okay, yes, this is masterful. I'm so concerned for the third one, but I don't feel like I need it instantly. I know that a lot of people have had to wait, and I'm one of the lucky ones that just get to chill along, but I know that it ends with concern. I found the way that Patrick wrote it was just so beautiful and lyrical. I was there, I could visualize everything. I read it in 4 days because it was just so captivating, and I just love his writing style. So this definitely was a surprise sequel that just made my heart warm. I really loved Kvothe's story and seeing their exploration through a variety of different cultures. I didn't find anything jarring with it, and I just really enjoyed the whole process of it. Next up, we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and this was recommended by Amy from A Star Reads and Abby Lee C for my Advent Challenge, and I was so apprehensive going into this because I didn't enjoy the Starless Sea as much as I would have hoped. So I was shooting myself that this was not going to be glorious. I read this with Nat, Danielle, and Amy, and Amy and I just fell in love with it. It's the sort of whimsical, beautiful writing that I adore in a setting that made sense to me, and I could appreciate it. So with the Starless Sea, it just fell flat. I got confused. Nothing was coherent. This had moments of incoherency that made sense. Don't think that makes sense, but let's just roll with it. And I just had so much joy, wonder, and awe exploring this story and seeing the settings, falling in love with these characters, and just getting to go for the ride. Next up, I have Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. This was amazing. Just the discussions, the language use, the plot, everything of it was exceptionally crafted. I think it's an interesting take that is so valuable to see, and I can't wait to continue on with the sequel. I very much appreciate that it was in journal entries, as it made it feel that much more connected to Lauren and her struggles, and the events that were unfolding felt like you were there with her as everything was unfolding, and it was just beautiful to read. It definitely hits with the fact that it was written a while ago and set in 2024, which is now next year. Shit. And the relatability, the concern is real. Let's just look into the future and put it into a book of concern. And it made me think, it made me wonder, it made me critically analyze myself, and I loved it. I love that I never know what I'm gonna get because it is just so thought-provoking, and I love books like that. And then for my top two, we all saw this coming. Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I both want to be both of them and fuck both of them. This is just a fun romance novel that deals with a lot. There is a lot of heart to this. There is a lot of moments of just wanting to cuddle people. There are moments of absolute joy and hilarity, and I absolutely adored it. Ashley Herring Blake is one of my favorite authors of all time, and so I'm gonna be biased. I love her writing in this, and I adored it with every fiber of my being. And so if that wasn't enough of a TikTok hype book, my top book of 2022 is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I would not be surprised to see this on quite a few favorite books of the year. I definitely just felt everything. Jeanette's sense of humor is very dry, and her story is not necessarily one that I can overly relate to. I grew up watching iCarly, and to know that this was going on in the background just blows me away. The way that she presents her recovery, from eating disorders and from trauma, the way that she has assessed her life and being able to share her story for others to not feel alone is so wonderful. It's harrowing and heartbreaking that she has gone through this, but it hit all the right notes for me, and I'm definitely going to be thinking on it for the longest time. I I did go and look at 1-star ratings of this, and I can understand. I definitely can understand that this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea and that people are going to feel that it's overhyped. But for me, it was so worth it, and just to hear her story told by her was amazing. I definitely choked up. There was a section where she starts choking up in the audiobook and I was like, oh damn! Oh, feelings. And the reason I know that it's my favourite book, aside from the fact it sits in my heart, is the fact that I cannot articulate my thoughts on it. It's like my brain just goes, you just loved it that much, you just know. So, apologies for not having very coherent structure to this in comparison to some of the others. It was my favourite read of 2022. These are my top 10 of 2022. I am thrilled. Just looking at this, it makes me smile so fucking hard, and I just, amazing. I've got quite a decent amount of feminist empowerment, got a little bit of whimsical, got a little bit of romance, got a thriller, and a non-fiction. A very eclectic mix this year. So let me know what was one book that just completely blew you out of the water. If it was your favorite, or if you had multiple favorites, let me know in the comments down below. And I hope that we can have as good of a reading year in 2023 as humanly possible, because books are amazing, and getting to see and feel these strong emotions just fill me with joy. So yes, let me know down below if there were any that blew you out of the water. If you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!